Hi, there are millions of people around the world who love singing. They sing solo, or maybe they sing in a choir, or maybe just sing as they're moving around the house or something for pleasure. And actually there are quite a lot of people who don't particularly enjoy singing. But I was surprised recently to discover that in England, apparently there are more people singing in choirs every week than there are people going to football matches. And I was really surprised because we're a nation of football, but it turns out we're a nation of singers as well. So that's a great thing. But some people really don't like singing at all and would rather get through their lives without having to bother. And I hear many people telling me, well, I play the clarinet or the trumpet or something, and why should I have to sing? That's not my thing. But there are occasions when it's quite useful to be able to look at a piece of music and just be able to hum through the line and see if you can work out what's going on. And if you end up doing music exams, then quite often you're asked to do just a little bit of singing as part of the Aural Tests work. And some people, when it comes to these singing tests in the oral, they've probably got a perfectly decent ear, but they just don't enjoy the singing. I think the first thing to say about that is that it's not a test in how good a singer you are. It's more of a test in, can you hear things? And if an examiner plays a short tune, can you sing it back and sing the correct notes and sing it in tune as a way of demonstrating that you can really hear what's going on. So if you're in that sort of exam situation, please don't worry about whether you've got the most fantastic voice on the planet or not. It really doesn't matter. But a lot of this is about confidence. And how do we get just a little bit of basic confidence so that we could do maybe even a little bit of singing? Well, one thing is, if you're not into singing at all, then the thing is to try and get singing, even if it's in your own private space, when there's nobody around, and you can just maybe sing a tune or two that you know, just to get the voice moving and to get used to hearing pitches and being able to hear them in your head and then produce them vocally. Because I think some people can hear things in their heads, but they're not great at actually producing them vocally. And you're not always entirely sure what's going to come out when you start to sing. Particularly if you're a boy and your voice is breaking and you're not quite sure what's going to happen even when you speak. Never mind when you're going to sing. That's a particularly difficult kind of corner of life when it comes to singing. But see if we can get a bit of confidence into what you're doing, and you might be rather surprised that actually maybe it's not as horrendous as you thought. And who knows, you might even get to the point where you start to enjoy your singing. So I'm just going to talk very briefly about what would help you get a bit more confidence with singing. And really the first thing is all about posture. How do we stand? If we don't like singing, then we tend to kind of slump down and we're all very apologetic, and then we make a very small noise that's not terribly accurate. But first thing we can do, get our feet very slightly apart so that you're not standing with your feet together. If you stand with your feet together, you kind of wobble around. So feet slightly apart and one foot slightly in front of the other will just help to steady. And once you've done that, you can feel that you're on firm ground. Have a little move to the left and to the right and see if you can get a point where you're equally balanced on both feet. That will just help underpin what you're doing. Now, the next job is when we sing, terribly important to be able to breathe really well. And some people, even when they're doing short oral tests, don't really breathe properly, and then the sound is a bit thin, a bit weak, and often a bit flat. So how do we do this? Well, the first thing is to stand as tall as possible. So just see if just by standing nice and tall, you could grow a centimetre or two. That would be wonderful. The next thing is to try and lift the rib cage. Because if the top half of your body is all kind of collapsed and slumped, then the rib cage is pressing down and you won't get the breath support that you need. So just by standing tall, then shoulders back and down, see if you can lift the upper half of your chest so you kind of really create some space to breathe. And if you find that difficult to do, here's one way you can do it. Put your hands on your head, push the elbows back, and actually the rib cage will start to lift. And then when you get used to how that feels, see if you can hold the rib cage where it is, slowly bring the hands down, and then you're in a decent place. And you should feel a bit of space in the tummy area now where you could take a decent breath. Now, when you take a breath, don't just kind of take a tiny amount of air in. See if you can take a really decent breath and feel the expansion in the tummy as you take a breath. So the tummy shouldn't squeeze in, it should expand. So like you're blowing up a football. So see if you can take in a breath and feel the tummy expand. Aha. That's going to help you sing with much greater confidence. Once you've got that breath in, well, see if you can sing some notes. Just take any old note that comes out and see if you can hold a nice steady note without it wandering up and down and all over the place. Then see if you can pitch accurately by playing a note on your instrument and then trying to sing exactly the same note. See if it's nice and stable, so it's not going up and down. See if it's really in tune, because if you don't get enough breath support, it's probably going to be a bit flat. Then you could try playing 2 different notes on your instrument and see if you can sing those 2 notes back. Build up to 3 notes, and so on. And before you know it, you'll be singing with much greater confidence. So this is not really about, what are we going to do when we sing, but this film is about actually what's going to help us prepare to sing if we're not really seeing ourselves as natural singers. So feet slightly apart, 1 foot slightly in front of the other, standing tall, lift the rib cage, try the hands on the head routine, push the elbows back, and then when you can feel that lifted rib cage, bring the hands down, then take a huge breath, feel the tummy expand, and then try singing some long notes. And you'll find that the sound you produce is just miles better than it was if you were in this slightly apologetic slump position, just kind of squeaking a note or 2. So I hope that's a really useful, quick tip.